right, how's it going, everybody? It is episode 81. Already up to 81 here on Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helle, Hunter Hughes back with you here as we record this 8 a.m. Hawaii time on Wednesday morning. Big mahalo to Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, as well as a big mahalo to Brian McInnis, who we will talk to here in just a second. We ditched the usual first half, second half time, and we're just going to talk to BMAC for the whole pot. So after we get through the opening drive, it'll be a whole lot of BMAC, Hunter, and I. But a quick opening drive, did want to give a shout out to Laura Beeman, the Rainbow Wahine basketball squad, who go back-to-back in the Big West Conference Championship tournament. Thrilling fashion, really, all three nights, including a huge comeback on Saturday to claim the crown and punch their ticket to the big dance. They will be playing Friday, St. Patrick's Day. That's this Friday, right? So this will be released tomorrow. That is Thursday. And then the ladies will be taking the court 11:30 a.m. Hawaii time at the Maravich Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, against LSU. Hawaii, a 14 seed. They will be taking on 3-seeded LSU. That is a good team that Kim Mulkey has. They actually were here in Hawaii at the Maui Classic back in December over at Kihei. And that one will be on ESPN2. I think they kind of do the whip around coverage on ESPN2, but you can get the full, uninterrupted game on ESPN Plus as well. So a couple of different options to watch the squad this Friday again at 11:30 a.m. So just wanted to make sure that it was on everybody's radar. I know we got a lot of UH fans, not just football fans, to listen to the pod, who are already very well aware of that. But that is awesome. Look, the University of Hawaii, we're the little guys, right, on the national scale. Just to get to the tournament is a massive deal, and I think definitely needs to be applauded for Laura Beeman and her squad.
Absolutely. And if you know anything about that team, they've battled significant amount of injuries. I mean,
Yeah,
even if just a couple go down, but I think they had like close to four, Jordan, of significant contributors to their team having season-ending injuries and then having to rely on up-and-coming players coming off their bench. And like the last two games, they averaged north of 20 points of production from those girls coming off the bench. And if you know anything about basketball, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. You're usually looking at 80% of your production coming from your starting five. And so it's such a resilient and a fighting and kind of gritty group. And definitely represent what it means to be a warrior, what it means to be a University of Hawaii student athlete. Couldn't be more proud of these guys. And you hit the nail on the head. It might go down as what no, Laura Beeman's known for. I mean, this is probably one of her strongest coaching performances. And yeah, of course, we're going to get into more football talk here in a minute, but you have to acknowledge a dance birth for a mid-major like us. So hats off to her, hats off to that staff and this crew. Winning the Big West is no small accomplishment at all.
yeah. Man, what fun that was to see them go on that run last week in Henderson, Nevada, and now a chance to go take on one of the Giants in LSU, and maybe a chance to maybe shock the world. That'd be pretty cool, no doubt about that. All right, quick reminder: Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit HawaiiUSAFCU.com. All right, BMAC coming up on the other side. Back with more Hawaii Football Now. All right, here we go. Game time on episode 81, Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Hunter and our guy, Brian McInnis of Spectrum News, is joining us once again. I've lost count, BMAC. How many times have we had you on the show?
I believe this makes it 3, my friend. And
yeah, that's like right. Hat trick.
Right. Is there an SNL-esque like jacket that I get for like being on X number of times?
As a 3-time guest.
You get a complimentary background now.
So yeah, you exactly. You get it. You get the customized Hawaii Football Now
metallic
grain. Metallic grain. Yeah, it's clearly synonymous at this point with the Hawaii Football Now podcast. So this is rare. I believe you're the first person besides Hunter and I to rock the background.
Hey, it's all about synergy, man.
That's right. And all the people who listen to us via like their podcast app every week, have no idea what we're talking about, and are probably like, all right, move it on. But everybody watches on YouTube and Facebook. Hello to you out there.
They're hitting the 15 seconds forward button.
Yeah, yeah, they're just putting this up ahead, for sure. All right, B-Mac, before we get into some of the football conversation, we started off the pod giving a shout out to Laura Beeman and the Rainbow Wahine basketball squad, who win their second consecutive Big West Conference tournament championship. They're off to Baton Rouge to take on LSU. What a tall task that is. I know you were covering the team all season long, as you really cover everything Hawaii sports in your role with Spectrum News, but just wanted to get a chance. I know you were following them closely as they went through their run in Henderson and now off to Louisiana for the first round of the NCAAs on Friday. But just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what an accomplishment this was.
It was just that, man. A heck of an accomplishment for them to rally the way they did in that tournament championship game, down 15 at halftime, 10 going into the fourth quarter. They shoot 6 for 8 from 3 in that fourth quarter. Some on busted plays, some on very nice driving kicks, and then Deja Phillips with the go-ahead game-winning 3-point play that I think a lot of folks will remember off that inbounds play for years to come. And it was a team that dealt with all kinds of stuff during the season, injuries and close losses, and one emotional setback after the next, and they found a way to rally in thrilling fashion, at the Dollar Loan Center. I wish I was there to see it. Didn't happen this year, but was following from afar, and they get the 14 seed, going off to Baton Rouge to play LSU in another tall task for them, a la Baylor in the first round last year. So we'll see if they can make it any more competitive this time around.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome for them. I mean, just getting to the tournament, they're going to be huge underdogs. They honestly were a higher seed, I think, than I expected. I thought maybe a 15 seed, maybe even a 16 seed for this group, just with all the injuries that they had gone through and their overall record. I got a chance to see LSU in Kihei when they were down here for the Maui Classic. They're really good. Angel Reese is a baller and takes no prisoners and just like talks a mad amount of junk throughout the game. And I love her. She is terrific. And it's not necessarily like talking trash at people. She's just like talking. And I think that's how she gets her motor going, because her motor is always humming. That's gonna be a tall task for UH. But man, what an opportunity for them to get there and just get a chance to play in a venue like that in the first round of the NCAA tournament. It's gonna be really, really cool for sure. Do you have any other thoughts on that, BMAC, before we move on to some of the football conversation?
Just that Lily Wahine Kapu has had a heck of a season, has really, become the player that they hoped they were getting when she transferred in from Cal State Fullerton. And I know it was tough for her little sister Jovi to go out during the season, but I've been very impressed by her ability to carry a team for long stretches this year for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I'll probably pin some of them in an upset in my bracket, because what the heck, why not? And we realize this is the Hawaii Football Now podcast, and we are very much geared toward it. But hey, when one of the UH teams goes dancing, man, we got to spend a little time talking about them because it is very, very much something to celebrate. And it doesn't happen every day, even though this is the second consecutive year, third time overall under Laura Beeman. All right, let's get into some of the conversation here, Hunter. BMAC, I know you've been around spring practice. You've obviously been covering the team here. You've been on the stories when it's come to Aloha Stadium, Ching, any place else that maybe Hawaii has entertained in playing, whether that's like a parking lot someplace, as well as the ongoing search for a new athletic director, with applications having closed last week Friday, and I'd imagine the review and selection process ongoing. Even though Laura Beeman, who's on the search committee, she's going to be a little busy here for the next week. So we'll see how that all unfolds. But I guess where to start, maybe some of the stadium news, BMAC. I know you got a chance in recent days to talk with University of Hawaii Athletics Director David Matlin about a wide range of topics. So maybe you might sprinkle in some of those tidbits if you so choose. But what's the latest, I guess, when it comes to the Ching renovations down there on Lower Campus? We know they wrapped up spring practice a little bit early. earlier than usual in the calendar because they needed to get to work on the facility down there. There was beach volleyball last night on campus as on the complex, so I know there are things still happening down there. But what's the latest? What are you hearing as to how the renovations are going or about to go, and what can we expect in the fall?
Right, Jordan. So as you said, spring ball had to kind of get out of the way, get completed before they could do some of the more substantial work on the Ching complex to get it expanded to that 15K figure that they're looking at for this upcoming 2023 season. So that said, spring ball is out of the way, and they have begun breaking down the Eva side end zone bleachers. That's the older bleachers that the UH students occupied for the last year and a half since fans could enter in droves. And so those are in the process of being removed. They're going to set up a similar end zone aluminum seating structure, more or less parallel to the Diamond Head end zone seating. So a few thousand fans can probably fit in there, and then they're going to add those two pockets in the Mackay side corners that are going to connect those end zone bleachers to the Mackay side stands. And that will make up those kind of two pockets plus the Eva end zone bleachers that I mentioned will make up the expansion to that 15K target that they're looking at. And David Matlin did tell me this week that they are on target, they believe, to get that done by the home opener against Stanford.
Man, that's good news, man. For those listening, obviously that have been tracking this, know how dire the situation is for us to retain Division I status, and we have to get to that mark of 15,000. Was there any inclination or any evidence in your conversation with Mr. Matlin? I'm thinking just most immediately, quick question here, BMAC, on the concession side of things. Are they still planning on going with the model of bringing in the food trucks, kind of what they did before, and having that Jamaican jerk chicken one, have smoke be blaring out onto the field and over me and Jordan, which wasn't actually that bad. It smelled awesome, but just curious if he had anything to say about that.
This time around, at least, Hunter, the concessions didn't come up, but I have to imagine I think it was fairly successful overall bringing in the vendors. It seemed pretty popular with the fan base, walking around, milling around before games, during the game. Until I hear otherwise, I have to expect that they would do something pretty similar. I can't say if specific vendors will be back or not, of course, but for this upcoming season. One other thing we touched on is that, the Mauka side seating, I believe nothing will change in that regard. That existing structure that was there before they brought UH football to campus. He also touched on, David Matlin did the Cook Field process to level that two-tiered grass field and prepare to have soccer and track have their home venue there. So that phase or that opening work on that venue will take place in August, and they're looking to get that done by the 2024 UH soccer season. So a lot of work to be done there, but they're going to have that going kind of concurrently with some of the stands upgrades and scoreboard, Aloha Stadium scoreboard importing that's going to take place at the Ching complex. On that note, with the scoreboard, David Matlin acknowledged they're not as optimistic on that front, getting that in by that September 1 Stanford opener. He said it's a little more complex, some more moving parts in terms of the housing they have to construct to ready. It's above the club of the Les Murakami Stadium, the club area that kind of juts out from the back of the baseball stadium and overlooks Ching Complex a bit. So it's a great spot that'll be visible for everyone once they get that up there. It's just David Matlin said they're still doing some work on getting all those kind of moving parts, and that's where maybe some of the supply chain stuff comes into play, because they do have to construct a housing apparatus for that very, very large scoreboard, and then get all their I's dotted and T's crossed for moving that thing from Aloha Stadium over to lower campus.
So basically, you're saying it's going to be right above Jordan's head whenever he has his Spectrum broadcasts. That's cool.
Correct.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
Just because you had a chance to, sit down and talk with Mr. Matlin. It's a known thing that he's going to be out as athletic director in a very short time, in just a couple months. Is your observation, in someone who is on their way out, is he still active? I know he's, talking about all these projects, but the dude's gone in just a couple of months. It's kind of a unique thing where, um, was your observation that he's kind of hands off on these things, or is he still very much a part of the nuts and bolts of getting things done?
I think he's taken a pretty direct role in these latest Ching complex upgrades, Hunter. I feel like I get the sense that Dave Mallon considers that, one of his last kind of signature things that he's been able to do here. I mean, he was credited, rightly so, with all the speed in which he was able to oversee, that initial overhaul of Ching, um, when the football team needed a place to play on short notice. And with this one, I think he, as I said, considers it still a continuation of what his legacy might be, in terms of giving this team safe harbor until that new Aloha Stadium arrives, whenever that may be. And 2027 is still what Governor Green's saying, but I know they've changed plans now on that front. He's looking to change up the P3, as Governor Ige, his predecessor, looked to do. So we'll see if they're actually able to make that 2027 target. That's still 4 years off. So, but to go back to your question, Hunter, I do get the sense that he's being a pretty active participant. Even in these last lame duck, or he didn't want to call them lame duck when he told us all about his plan to leave, but they are lame duck months, and he's doing his best to appear everywhere. He was up at the Big West tournament. He's been around at most of the sporting events that I've attended, in one way or form, making an appearance. So he's still been visible, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think this, or the overall overhaul of the Ching complex area, expanding that into now, as you mentioned, with soccer and track being sort of relocated there to the practice fields, and the potential for this whole thing to play out. I really think it's maybe the biggest feather in the cap, and the biggest thing on the resume for David Matlin. I think he's done a very admirable job in turning the Aloha Stadium situation into something that I think can be very, very useful on campus, and something that the university can be proud of. And I give him a ton of credit for that. But to Hunter's point, who I think brings up a really interesting conversation, while I applaud David Matlin, he is, stepping away from the job. And I guess, I hadn't really thought about it before, but it makes a lot of sense. It's like, hey, and I think this is a credit to Matlin. It's like, hey, are we what are the systems in place? And I don't know if you know this answer necessarily, be back more of a conversation piece, that are we sure that the right systems or people are in place to see this through? Like after Matlin leaves, are we making sure that his vision and whatnot is followed through on? Because again, he's done a really good job when it's come to this, and infrastructure, capital improvement projects. Hawaii, people get a little leery. I think this has been one of the positive ones. And so, I just hope that whoever the new athletic director is, or whoever's already in place in administration, I just want to make sure that this gets finished off, and we see this through.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think a lot will have to do with who that successor is for David Matlin, right? We don't know who that's going to be yet. As you mentioned earlier, Jordan, the search, the application process, I believe, was technically closed last Friday, but I think they're accepting further applications until they actually, go about naming someone in the coming, weeks or months. But as far as the people within the athletic department, I think, they're pretty loyal to David Matlin, is the sense I get. And as kind of him as their front man, their leader. So I would be surprised if things kind of took a turn, at least with this specific capital improvement project with the Ching complex. I think he's laid the groundwork for that to go to at least this phase of completion, and then we'll see wherever his successor decides to take it from there.
Yeah, and I do think as they expand this thing out to 15, did he mention or there's been talks of expanding it beyond that as well in future years. Did that come up in your conversation with him, or have you heard anything further on what the final vision is for the stadium there on campus?
We didn't get into that this time around, Jordan, but previously, they talked about it's supposed to be with this 30 million project for both the Ching and Cook fields to get it up to over 17, I think was the initial announcement. So they've acknowledged that they're not going to get it that full way in this off season. But David Matlin did say north of 15, and to what Hunter mentioned earlier, there's that NCAA figure where I believe it's actually tickets issued attendance has to be 15, not just capacity of your venue. So they will have to, to meet that benchmark. If it's about 15 for the immediate future, pretty much, sell out every game to hit that mark and not, have to get another waiver or exemption from the NC2A like they have at the moment. And then once they get out to 17, maybe it'll be a little easier to hit that mark, say, because, folks sometimes get a little more hesitant to buy tickets if they know they're going to be jammed in like sardines to watch a game. We'll see if that helps, but that's still quite, the capacity figure you have to hit in order to avoid that waiver process.
Yeah. And I guess and you kind of touched on this a little bit, BMAC, but with the Aloha Stadium news and kind of this ever evolving, situation, and it seems like Governor Green is trying to nail down a plan, but the couple of weeks ago where it went from one thing to another, back to something in the middle, was not comforting nor encouraging. Has that played into some of the decision making on campus here as they take this thing to the next phase? Has that come up in how they're planning to go about really building this thing out as much as they had planned?
I think, Jordan, there's been skepticism as far as UH is concerned amongst themselves for the state to be able to deliver this project in anything close to a timely fashion. So I think they've resolved for a while now that they're just going to do their thing and make the Ching complex as best as it possibly can be. And hey, when that new stadium rolls around, great. But in the meantime, from their vantage point, they are going to do their utmost to dress it up as best they can while still acknowledging it is, a go-between venue, so to speak, before they get their next permanent home. But the whole impetus for making that 30 million commitment to this latest phase, Jordan, was because I think there was just that lack of faith that the stadium, the new full stadium, would be ready in anything close to a near future sense.
Now, it gets me excited. The 15,000 or not, I think we're still going to be able to kind of ride that that buffer zone with the NCAA. I feel like the NCAA has just been super lenient ever since COVID for a lot of things. And for us to get a solid option on campus and continue to kind of build in that fashion, and football kind of shaping up with everything with the run and shoot, and Timmy with coach of the future. And this is pairing into my next question, BMAC. Like, it feels like we're moving in the positive direction here. Government can kind of work on their thing on the side, and we're not really focused on that right now in the immediate future. Like, if it takes 7 years, if it takes 10 years, doesn't really matter. We're at Ching. And so I know that's the mood, on the team. And that's kind of branching into my question for you, BMAC, is someone who I saw very often down at practice. What was kind of your feeling just overall in the spring for the team? Maybe general mood, excitement for what is kind of in store for Timmy's second season, which we all know is kind of the most scrutinized year of any new head coach. Is this is the one that has to really be a banger to kind of establish yourself as our new head coach. So rather than me just continuing to shoot off optimistic vibes for our football team as a former alumni and former player, I'd love to hear from someone else for our pod how the spring was for you.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, Hunter, it was damp. It rained every single time I was out there, and my understanding is even the days that I wasn't, and there were quite a few of those too, being how busy the overall athletic season is for me right now, that it rained every day for them, regardless whether or not I was there. So, that said, I think there was some of that sense of optimism that you were talking about. I mean, implementing this new offense that has a proven track record of putting up huge numbers at this institution, with a guy leading it who has that firsthand experience of being a star member of that offense in its heyday at UH. So I think Timmy himself, I noticed a bit of a tone shift from that opening season was like all about introducing him and his ethos of reaching out to the community and trying to include as many people in the process of this rebuild to now, hey, we're up against it, we're getting to work like at all times in all ways that we possibly can. And that I think played into his whole decision not to hold any kind of spring game festivities at the end of spring ball, which was more like winter ball because it was barely into March by the time they finished this year. And they didn't even really have a formal scrimmage that final day. There was some talk that they would. I was out there that day, and they did have referees out there for just kind of some broken down scrimmage work, 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s, but nothing formal there as well. So I think they were just all about breaking down everything to its to the base and just building them up in this offense. And I think Timmy said himself, there's a lot of ways to go. By no means are they a finished product in the run and shoot based on those 4 weeks of spring ball. You probably saw that yourself, Hunter. But this offseason will be huge for them. I mean, these player run sessions that they're going to have all summer going into fall camp. Yeah, they're I think the guys bought into Coach Chang's tone of seriousness and workmanlike personality going into the second season. That, as you said, it is a huge one for any head coach.
Yeah, it really is. And kind of just on that note, and really the whole conversation in general, BMAC, when it comes to the momentum of the program on the field, when it comes to all the things happening literally right around it, with the Ching complex, as they expand this thing, as they get to 15,000, that's the goal by the opener, come August, or I guess September technically. What does the expansion provide for this team, beyond just maybe the tangibles of, hey, now you can sell 15,000 seats, right? Or 15,000 tickets, like that's a big deal, obviously, for the NCAA and Division I status. But beyond that, what does this sort of create in terms of opportunity for the program?
I think in terms of respectability, it will definitely make it a little more resemble, because I think of the way that the TV cameras are oriented for those home games, make it look like a little bit more of a respectable venue in terms of just how many people are actually there watching the game. I know there were some great home environments with those ones that they were able to sell out over the last year and a half, but every little bit helps, I think, in that regard, when you're as up against it as a program as these guys are on so many different fronts, from their venue to possible future conference realignment to all the coaching changes they've undergone and player talent going elsewhere. This program has been through the ringer, and I think any improvement in that regard going into next year, it's by no means what level they were operating at in terms of a program even a handful of years ago, but after all they've been through, I have to imagine it's a shot in the arm for everybody involved.
Yeah, and I think as they get closer and closer to a 20,000 mark, whatever they can get up to, like some of the programs that are doing really good in college football, like Coastal Carolina, like their stadium seats 21,000. Like it's not very big, but they've they've done pretty well for themselves in a facility of that size, and so for the University of Hawaii, we'll see. So we talked a little bit about the task for whoever the new AD is to kind of keep this going and make sure that the Matlin vision gets fulfilled down there on lower campus with all the facility upgrades and facilities construction, which I think is pretty darn exciting beyond just for football, and obviously to get track back, in a home, to bring Rainbow Wahine soccer home, on campus. I think that'll be huge for Bud Nagamine's program. Really, really massive to have that take place there on campus. When it comes to the AD search overall, BMAC, we can get into some of the conversation and the back and forth when it's come to who should be on a search committee, who should be involved in the decision-making process, or at least, have a voice and a seat at the table. But and we haven't really had a chance to talk to you. I know you've been covering it, but what are the big sort of the big ticket issues or items that are going to be kind of dropped in the lap of whoever gets this job and takes over later in the summer?
Sure. Well, as we talked about, I think UH football is first and foremost helping keep them connected to the state and whatever entity is assigned to construct this new stadium. They're going to have to try to be in lockstep with whoever or whatever that is to make sure they are in the room, so to speak, with key decisions that are made for that stadium, because as we've seen, that nascent project has evolved so many times in terms of what we as a state are actually getting with our $400 million. It's shrunk a little bit from 35 to 40 to 30 to now maybe 25,000 seat stadium to maybe 20. Like those are all the number ranges that I've heard over these last couple years. So the 80's got to be plugged in there, and after that, I mean, shoot, issues from NIL to cost of attendance to there are no shortage of key issues for whoever steps into that position, whether it's somebody internal, somebody who doesn't really have any college experience to speak of, even though they did say in their requirements they are looking for someone with college administrative experience. But we'll see if that's actually followed through on. Excuse me. But yeah, Jordan, I mean, UH athletics has always been one of the have-nots in this modern age of the Power Fives, and I think some of those inequities have only been exacerbated in the last pandemic years, and the things like NIL that seem to benefit those key players even more than what a school like UH is be able to offer to bring in top talent. So whoever it is, I wish them the best of luck. I don't know why you would want to seek that job, honestly, but hey, whoever gets it must think they can make some kind of difference. So I'm anxious and eager to see what that might be.
Kind of off your point of UH has always been on the side of have-nots. I want to bring up, just for the sake of the pod, in the next couple of years, conference realignment is probably really going to hit the Mountain West with a couple of teams. And I think this new athletic director is really going to need to just come in with their boots on, ready to make shifts or, get in alignment with whatever that brings up. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And one of the issues that kind of came up in the last few weeks with the search committee for the new athletic director was lack of diversified representation, with folks not having Polynesian descent represented there, African American as well. And I'm kind of mainly citing the article from June Jones in the Star Advertiser a little over 2 weeks ago. That's changed now with them adding Ashley Lilly into the search committee. What would you have to say about that, BMAC, just with him jumping in there and being offered a seat at the table now?
Well, first, Hunter, I mean that is a great point. That what you said about conference realignment. Yes, the new athletic director will absolutely have uh, much to worry about and communicate with folks on that front, because yeah, we don't know if a Boise State or a Fresno State could get picked off at
San Diego State.
San Diego State at any time, honestly. So anyway, to your point about the search committee, yeah. So after that June Jones editorial, there was the follow-up letter from a group headed up by Artie Wilson, rounded up some former UH athletes, and they all expressed their concern about that lack of diversity on the panel. As I think maybe it was noted in your last episode, Al Chi is a committee member. He is part Hawaiian. But that said, the committee, the group of former athletes still had concerns. Sent that letter into UH, and a few days later, they moved actually pretty quickly on this. President Lassner announced the addition of Ashley Lilly, the former standout UH wide receiver of that early 2000s era with Rolo and those guys. That's a great pickup for him. He's still here in the islands. He's a successful business person. And they do get some of that representation that they said that concern group said was lacking here. Artie told me himself he's still not satisfied. He doesn't think it goes far enough in terms of representation of former athletes and from certain groups, but he said it's a start, and it seems like this is the 8-person group now instead of 7, that they're going to go ahead with to make this recommendation to President Lassner on the next athletic director. We'll see if he actually listens to the recommendation and who that person is or persons. Yeah, it's we'll see if it can be relatively innocuous from this point until they announce someone, because so far it's been anything but.
Yeah, and anything but is right. Who or what are some of the qualities you would like to see? I mean, is somebody in-house preferable? Is somebody from completely outside the box preferable? Is it somewhere in between? Like, you've been around that program, that university for a long time, BMAC. What kind of qualities, I guess, would you like to see in whoever gets that job? As you pointed out, you don't probably envy whoever gets that job. Like, it is a really, really difficult task to take on. But what are some of the traits or maybe experience that you would like to see in a strong candidate for this position?
Ability to reach out to the community, I think, and communicate effectively with them jumps to the top of my list. You have to be a sound manager of finances, because they are always trying to do more with less in that regard, especially lately. You have to be a leader, just in terms of being able to recruit the kind of coaches you want and retain them, and in some ways let them know that, hey, you are in charge of this outfit. I mean, thinking back to a guy like Stan Sheriff, no one questioned the fact that he was the boss. I think that he's kind of the standard in that regard, in the history of Hawaii athletic directors. So, hey, David Mallon did some good things, for sure. I think he's got the trust and support of that entire athletic department, honestly. I mean, he made so many coaching hires, and I do believe they have his back and will follow through on his vision the best they can. Now, whether it should be someone in-house or not, to your question, Jordan, I don't know if it's for me to say, but maybe they have at least one, to my mind, candidate that has been talked about internally, that being Lois Mannon as a possibility. We'll see if they decide to go that route or not. Externally, there's been a number of names in various degrees of, I don't know how interested they actually are, that have been floated out there, but I know there are candidates that don't have any of that college experience that they say they want on their requirements list. And like I said earlier, we'll just have to see how closely they hew to that list and then those bullet points, because if they are in fact trying to achieve some change, then I don't think they can adhere to those bullet points as closely as they would like. And I know a lot of folks out there would like to see a lot of change. So um, it's going to be interesting what philosophy they go with. Ultimately, right now it is still David Lassner's call. That said, he was pretty close in ties with the existing regime, and I would not be surprised at all if they go with something closer to home.
Have you heard of any candidates that have applied, or have you heard from anybody who's said they've applied? I feel like it's been kind of quiet. And maybe that's sort of Hawaii style, where it's like, nobody's necessarily going to puff their chest out or publicly campaign for it or anything just yet. And maybe, the fact that the application deadline was last week, Friday. And so that's still kind of fresh. And maybe it was a soft deadline
Right.
that folks are maybe still able to kind of trickle in. So if either of you haven't put in your application yet, maybe we can get it on the Lassner's desk. But have you heard besides, I mean, Lois, I think, is a very obvious candidate. I think she makes a lot of sense, obviously, with her experience and whatnot, but nothing against Lois. You would hope that there are a handful of at least, viable candidates that you'll need to make a tough decision on, because hopefully there are multiple folks that would be good for the job. But have you heard or what are you hearing, I guess?
Well, yes, it has been quite secretive. I don't think there's been too many people eager to have their name out there. Probably a lot of times just because of where they're currently employed. That's kind of understandable. I had a chance to talk to a guy like John McNamara, the former associate athletic director, and he did go on record and telling me he will not be applying for the job, when he on paper was a guy actually who would seem to fit most, if not all, the requirements that they laid out. Now that said, there are other names that have been floated out there. One that hasn't told me specifically that he's going for it, but I think has been spoken of in that same breath, is a guy named Jaron Akana, the former UH basketball player and player agent turned player agent in NBA circles. I've heard that he is interested, if not from himself directly. So that's one example of a guy I can give you that may be in the non-traditional background of a college administrator who's possibly making a run at it. But like I said, everyone's kind of playing their cards pretty close right now.
Yeah, I think whoever our next guy or girl, I want to be careful there. Our next candidate is, I would love if they would bring an outside the box way of thinking to the position, where there's plenty of opportunity in the next short years in front of us for UH to kind of rise right now. We're coming off 2 back-to-back volleyball national championships, and you could say, yeah, we had that with Shoji in years past, but it just feels like there's an opportunity for expansion and for growth in some aspects. And whoever is our next person, I would love a little bit of tenacity and a little bit of I might even use the word aggression in the way that we kind of do things and learn from other schools, and aren't just okay sitting idly by and letting things kind of always go the way that they are. I mean, with serious improvements to some of our facilities and athletic structures on campus, it's kind of I might be getting too far out ahead of myself in the metaphors, but like an issuing of what's to come. And I would love for us to kind of head in that direction. I mean, what do you think, BMAC? Are you kind of catching my drift there?
I hear you, Hunter. I mean, there's some good things being done, no doubt about it. I would also add, I mean, there's so many challenges that they have in front of them as well. It's going to be how well they can navigate some of those to realize, I think, what you're hoping for, and what you see is in terms of the potential of this program. Hey, look, I was at men's volleyball the other night against UCLA, and that was one of the best, most rocking crowds that I've seen in a while, probably going back to the pre-pandemic BYU men's volleyball sellout that I think a lot of us remember right before the world changed. And but that UCLA game the other night was like whoa, these guys are fully back, like in terms of community support, crowd support, people packing in there like 9,300 through the turnstiles, I think. And a moment like that, kind of does tell you what this program can do when it's at its best, program being the entire athletic department. So yeah, I'm not going to say what you said is far-fetched or anything like that. They just have, as a school, so many things to get in order, to reach that vision. And maybe this athletic director can put them on a path to get there.
Yeah, it's that's the hope. That's the goal. And whoever that person is, we'll see how long it takes to name them. And we know that BMAC will be standing by. And we'll work on the jacket, BMAC. I think whatever number we get you up to in terms of guest appearances on the pod. But we appreciate it. Hunter, I don't know if you had any final kind of thoughts as we wrap things up. We've been rapping for a while. Or if BMAC, you got anything that you want to impart upon us before we cut you loose here. We could probably talk for another hour or so, but we don't want to overextend ourselves here. It's the off season. We got to space things out. But any final thoughts, guys, before we kind of close up shop?
Episode number 81, right? Kobe.
That's
episode.
right. That's right.
Kobe gets recognition for a number of different numbers out there, but 81, that's
81.
That's a special one.
That's true. That's true. Hallowed number in a lot of circles.
Yeah, BMAC, we'll probably have you on again before the year's done to talk all things new recruits and people coming into fall camp. We've got that 30-man incoming recruiting class, so we'll definitely need some help to cover all of that when it comes to fall camp, bro. So you're always welcome back in the pod. And fourth time, we'll probably have to get you a jacket. I agree with Jordan.
I need help.
Especially if it keeps raining at Hawaii football practices for the rest of the year.
Maybe it'd be a poncho.
Yeah,
that would actually come in handy. I would appreciate that.
We will see to make it happen. All right. Yeah, that'll kind of do it for us. We'll be back to wrap up the pod here with a little overtime segment. But BMAC, thanks again, my man.
Anytime.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, big thanks to BMAC again. We went a bit long there, but always fun to talk story with him. He's a wealth of knowledge and a bunch of important topics throughout the offseason, the stadium renovations. Lucky for us, we caught him right after he talked to athletics director David Matlin and got to really find out a little bit more about what's going on lower campus, or at least what the latest is with a lot of those plans there. So thanks to BMAC. Quick little overtime 2-minute drill to get us up out of here. Hunter, I'll leave you with the final thought, but I just wanted to mention that this past weekend where the services for the late, great Jim Leahy got a chance to go down on Sunday at St. Louis School. Really beautiful tribute. I'm sure if you didn't make it down, the folks out there got a chance to maybe see some of the highlights on the local news. Kanoa did a terrific job. The family did a terrific job. It was really awesome. And just, as they lay him to rest. Just wanted to give one last shout out to Jim. Really nice tribute and celebration of life as his services were held over the weekend. So just wanted to mention that. Got a chance to see BMAC down there as well and catch up with a lot of folks and saw a lot of familiar faces that haven't been seen in a long time. Some of the old timers. It was pretty cool. Yeah,
I think that's what makes Hawaii special. It is kind of a big, small town. Even it was primarily from Maui, correct, Jordan?
And Jim, no, he was a Oahu guy.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But kind of raised Kanoa over on Maui, or was that the deal?
No, they they're the Wahoo family, but
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Cano was living
like,
here for he's back and forth, married a Maui girl, so yeah. They got some ties here for sure.
Okay. But it's kind of my point is like it's the greater sports community from all of Hawaii, not just here. And it is kind of a sentiment of the sports voices and personalities really do have impact through the years. And I if I recall, he was a professional at this for north of 50 years, Jordan. I mean, it's pretty
long time.
Hats off to Mr. Leahy, and we appreciate your contribution to sports and to broadcasting, and giving folks like Jordan and I a floor to stand on, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. And it was a really nice tribute this weekend as well. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to BMAC, Brian McInnis of Spectrum News, for jumping on the pod today. Fun, lengthy conversation with him. We hope you enjoyed it as well. Big thanks to all of you, the listeners. Big thanks to Hunter, our guy Jonathan on the controls, as well as Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union as well. We'll see you next week on episode 82. This has been Hawaii Football Now.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.